Hey 7th graders, happy Friday. Today we're going to talk about our introductions and we are going to examine them for sentence structure. And so you can see I have my nonfiction narrative plot pyramid planning doc pulled up, so that's the one that we're going through each one of the plot pyramid elements, and we're using descriptive details and sensory language to plan out what we are going to write. And so you can see here that I have copy and pasted my introduction into the section where it's supposed to be, and I can revise it if needed, but right now I'm pretty happy with it. And so I'm going to look at my introduction to see what kinds of sentences make up that intro. And so I'm going to be using my sentence structure cheat sheet. If you can remember from our station work, we're trying to identify simple, compound, and complex sentences. So I have the cheat sheet, which is available for you on the kidney table, or you can be looking at the anchor chart that is up on the front board. Now, so to make sure that I don't get confused and forget what sentences are which types, I have a handy-dandy kind of key down here. So anytime I see a simple sentence, I'm going to highlight it in light blue. Anytime I see a compound sentence, I'm going to highlight it in green. And my complex sentences are going to be in yellow. And yes, yellow does need that W on the end. So I'm just going to jump right in and start at the beginning. So I walked into the armory and was hit with the sounds of hands and feet hitting springboard mats. So I can see here, I walked into the armory is an independent clause. So I know for sure that it has one independent clause, which they all have. But now there's additional words in this sentence, so I know it's got to be between a compound and a complex sentence. So, and was hit with the sounds of hands and feet hitting springboard mats. And so I'm thinking here that this must be a complex sentence because was hit with the sounds of hands and feet hitting springboard mats is a dependent clause because it can't stand on its own. But I'm not loving that, so I want to make it a compound sentence, so I'm going to add the word I here. And so now this, I was hit with the sounds of hands and feet hitting springboard mats. To me, that is a compound sentence. So I'm going to highlight this, right, because it has two independent clauses. I walked into the armory. I was hit with the sounds of hands and feet hitting springboard mats. They both stand on their own. So I'm going to now highlight this. If I go to the highlight, I'm going to highlight it in kind of a light green color. Okay, it sounded like soft hands beating an old blanket. So that's my next sentence. It sounded like soft hands beating an old blanket. So I see the word, I don't see the word and, so I don't see any fanboys or coordinating conjunctions. And it looks to me that it is just a simple sentence. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it, and I'm going to find light blue. So now I can see that I have a compound and a compound and a simple sentence. I'm going to move now to my second paragraph. So now I'm moving on to my second paragraph, and I'm going to read through. I was uncomfortable in a way that made me shy and unwilling to step past the doorway. I was uncomfortable in a way that made me shy and unwilling to step past the doorway. You may have just heard Ms. Casey. That was her at the door. And now Mr. Burke is sitting here staring at me. But I'm going to continue forward because I'm able to work and be on task even if my friends are in the room. So my second sentence here, or my first sentence in my second paragraph is I was uncomfortable in a way that made me shy and unwilling to step past the doorway. So I want to examine this and see if there is an independent clause to know if it starts off as a simple sentence. So I was uncomfortable in a way that made me shy. Well, I know that is an independent clause. But I also now see the word and, which I know is a fanboy, and unwilling to step past the doorway. I'm wondering now to myself, is this a compound, complex, or simple sentence? So now that I've reflected, I can see that I was uncomfortable in a way that made me shy is an independent clause, and after the conjunction, unwilling to step past the doorway, is a dependent clause. So I know automatically that that has to be a complex sentence, because if we're looking for simple, compound, or complex, we know that complex sentences are the only ones of those three that have a dependent clause. So I'm going to highlight that, and it is the color yellow. The next sentence, I heard a woman's booming voice. Sounds really simple because it is a simple sentence. I can tell there is one subject, one verb, and there are no conjunctions. So it is just an independent clause, which also means it is a simple sentence. And we know that that gets highlighted in light blue. That will be 25 push-ups, she yelled. I'm going to leave that alone because that's dialogue, and we're not analyzing dialogue for simple compound or complex sentences. So if you do have dialogue in your introduction, you can just kind of skip that and ignore it. Now we're on to our last paragraph. The first sentence is, I wondered if I had made a mistake, but I removed my shoes as one does for a tumbling class and was immediately comforted by the warm, smooth surface of the armory floors. Now, this is a long sentence, so let's break it down. I wondered if I had made a mistake. Okay, that is an independent clause, so we know that. I wondered if I had made a mistake. But, so now I say conjunction, so I know it's got to be some compound or complex. But I removed my shoes, as one does for the tumbling class, and was immediately comforted by the warm, smooth surface of the armory floor. Okay, I removed my shoes is another independent clause. But was immediately comforted by the warmth, smooth surface of the armory floors is a dependent clause. So we see now that this sentence has two independent clauses and one dependent clause. And if I look at my cheat sheet, it says that it's one independent clause and dependent clauses joined together, right? And it could be one or more independent clauses. So I'm going to highlight this entire sentence, and I'm going to label it as yellow. So now I can see that as a writer, I like to use a mixture of simple, compound, and complex sentences. Today, I'm going to be pulling you, and as is Mrs. Camrad, if you are in my 5-6, and we're going to break down these introductions together. So you'll go through, you'll do your highlighting, and then if you see, oh my gosh, I use a lot of yellow, that means you have all complex sentences. And we know after our station work that good writers, excellent writers, like to use a variety of different sentences. So go ahead, get started on your highlighting. If you have a question, raise your hand. Myself or Ms. Camrad or whoever else is in the room, might be Mrs. Johnson. We will be around to help you.